What's up, Ben? What's up, Shar? For those watching the replay, go ahead and skip this countdown. For those watching the replay, go ahead and skip this countdown. What's up, Eric? How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Okay. So I'm going to complete this countdown, and then about 8 to 10 minutes in is when I get to introduce you. And I go over some SEO like tips and news that were released within the past week, and then we pick it up from there.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Sounds good. I like the video setup. I like the hair.
Thanks. I see a few of you out there. Don't forget to say hi in the chat and where you're from. What's up, Bradley? What's up, Michael? Happy Friday, y'all. Happy Friday. Tim, what's up? Amit, what's up? Oh yeah, lunch and learn, Michael.
Yeah. Hey, time to get it started. No delay. Let's work. Wanna see you be an SEO expert. Paul Andre De Vera, steady dropping knowledge. Over 15 years in the game, so he knows all about it. Master the art of SEO. You will be amazed. Time to get your brand off page to on page. Dropping knowledge, legendary for sure. Whether you're just getting started or self-employed entrepreneur. Yeah, let's go. Subscribe to the SEO video show.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the SEO video show where SEO is alive and fun. My name is Paul Andre De Vera, aka Dre, and I curate SEO videos released within the past week into about 1-minute clips. My favorite part of the show is when I get to introduce my guest. And my guest this week is the founder of ClickFlow and author of Leveling Up, Eric Sue. Before we get started, I want to say hi to everyone in chat. We have Amit, Michael, Tim, Bradley, Char, Elizabeth, Breeze, and Ben. What's up, everyone? Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Whoops. And type in I love SEO in the chat to win our prizes for next week. Let's pick last week's winner. Last week we were giving away the SEO blueprint book. Let's see if you win here. Our first winner is Otam Baksar. Next winner is Umair Hamazaz Khan. Sorry if I did pronounce that wrong. One more. Joe Priest. Don't forget to claim your prize. You got 1 week to send me your address. And don't worry, this week, be sure I put I love SEO and you will get a copy of Leveling Up, which is a book I just pre-ordered this week, and I'll be sending 3 copies out to you guys. So be sure to put I love SEO in the chat, and I will pick 3 of you guys next week. Let's get on with the show.
This is Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. What kind of fruit do SEOs like best? Low hanging.
Post was posted on Google Discover on your website. A documentation was posted in advanced SEO portion of the Google Search Central, so be sure to check that out. And they give a rundown of what you need to do to optimize for Discover. And at the very, very end, they just pretty much mentioned use AMP. The link is in the description. Check it out. I always recommend getting content localized in each region you're doing business in. Here's why.
Asia is a diverse region, actually. So this means that you can't treat Asia as one bucket, which I'm sure it's also the same with other continents too. So Like there are different needs for each country and in some cases like each part of the country. And yes, one specific problem that we do run into is that we don't have enough content in certain Southeast Asia languages and in certain verticals.
If content is low, for Google to rank, competition must be low. Take a look at your traffic geo, and if you have decent amount of traffic from a particular country, localize it. On the topic of content, does changing the publish date help with the Google freshness ranking factor? Let's listen in here.
I think there are two important points here. First of all, removing the date assumes that Google is stupid and they are not. So they can definitely figure out if you changed something on the page or nothing changed in the last 10 years. So they can definitely figure it out. They don't need the date for you to know if this is updated and fresh content or not. This also goes hand in hand with some people trying to only change the date, not the content. So Google can also figure those things out. So they can figure out, okay, the only thing they really changed was the date. They changed it by 5 years just to make it look fresher. It's also not going to work. So what you really want to do is you want to have an updated date there. Sometimes you can see people, and this, I think there's no clear guideline here. Sometimes you can see people, they put created in 2015, last update 2021, 20 or 21. What I usually encourage my clients to do is to actively put a date on there if there's no date, and say really update it or some date references in the article as well. Like as you can read from this article by 2020, this is still a thing, something like this, and put some updated references in there. Google just really wants to connect the dots, and they want to connect the dot from the date to the freshness to the references you're giving, and you should be fine then.
That wasn't always the case. I know back in the days, I was changing post dates and seeing some cool things happen there. But hey, Eric Ingigs posted in his 3 pillars of search success. Here's number 1 on the list.
Concept of the 3 pillars of search success, as I call it. But let's just talk about what those 3 pillars are. Number 1 is flawless technical execution. Number 2 is working the landscape. I'll explain what that is in a minute. And number 3 is adding the most value. So first of all, the flawless technical execution. I mean, that's site architecture. Is it crawlable? How good is the content? Stuff like that. Just you implement SEO tags, schema, hreflang properly. And you must do this. But you also have to realize that a lot of your competitors are going to do this basically flawless. Excuse me. And what that means is that for you, flawless technical execution is just table stakes. You can't have this be holding you back. You don't get to compete for the real gold in search really until you've got your flawless technical execution nailed. So just get that out of the way and move on and start getting to the better stuff.
You can check out the rest of that by watching the complete video with the link below. The CEO of YOAST plugin tells us why user experience is essential.
There's always been the user signals, which are important to Google. So if a user experience is really, really bad, then the user won't like it and it will go away. And that's like the best indicator for Google that the result wasn't a good fit. So having a bad user experience, also in terms of design, is really important for SEO. And well, site speed is the thing that if your site is really slow to load, people get bored and they'll click away. I know that from myself. If it takes too long, it's just something you'll click away.
So to get all this technical SEO done, you need to get your dev team on board. Here's one way to get your web dev on board with SEO with Brittany from Moz.
First and foremost, create a genuine relationship with the developers you work with. Better understand their role in how they're measuring their own success. Know what languages they program in. Better understanding their perspective and their opinion on things helps you create a better working relationship. And part of that is cultivating trust. And one of the ways in which I've found some success cultivating that trust is just admitting when I have no idea how to implement a particular SEO fix. Or even when I sort of think that I do, I prefer to ask, what is the best way you see this being implemented? How would you most efficiently implement this change or optimization? And more frequently than not, they will have a way better way to make these website changes because they have that back-end knowledge of the website. So, being humble, kind of expressing that you don't know everything. You're not trying to step in and tell them how to program pages or how to fix that. It should be way more of a communication and a transaction of just information from both sides.
There you have it. Just be cool with your dev team and reach out to them. Check out the full video for more tips on how to work with your dev team. Here goes the tweet of the week. 5 SEO experts share their 2021 predictions. Let's check it out.
We know it's coming. It's guaranteed. Core Web Vitals. This is going to impact mobile pages with a poor user page speed experience.
Well, one, I don't think the Core Web Vitals thing is going to be as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. So I suspect it's going to be the same thing as when the mobile friendliness update rolled out, where it's not going to have that net effect that we're all expecting.
Brand mentions. It is no-followed links. It is sources of journalism and stories that talk about a brand. And those signals, I believe, will be more powerful in the future than links themselves.
It almost feels like that's the right equation, is to understand what is a good link signal versus a bad one.
On one hand, the importance of visual search, not only with video, but also with web stories. We can see how Google has been pushing a lot lately.
I don't think that Apple will launch a search engine. I think they will put a search layer on top of Siri, but there was some chatter about it, and I don't think that Apple will try to build the next Google. I don't think that fits their business model.
The pendulum is swinging, and so when it comes to link building, one side of the pendulum is that traditional public relations, and then the other side of the pendulum is more of that link building SEO mindset. And where does your outreach strategy fall?
Okay, the last piece of news is by Kyle Roof. Kyle Roof goes over his top ranking factor test results with Kirk Roldan's channel on SEO. Let's check it out.
Series that I did that was most important was seeing that Google can't read. Grammar's not a ranking factor, spelling's not a ranking factor, using bad words on a page isn't a ranking factor. Reading score, like the Flesch-Kincaid number that you get, or there are several other tools you can use for reading score. None of those are ranking factors. That was a big step forward. And then the series that I worked on, finding that your H1 is more powerful than an H3. It is more important. It does have more weight, so that there are different signal areas on the site that are more important than others. And then the last big set that was also extremely important was seeing that there isn't an SEO currency. You can't trade one signal for another signal, or one factor for another factor. So let's say you decide not to use an H1. You really can't make that up with more H2s.
This brings me to my favorite part of the show. Don't forget to ask questions throughout the conversation. Questions help us all learn. And don't forget to put I love SEO if you want to get a chance to win the Leveling Up book, which we're about to talk about. Let's go ahead and get this started.
Eric Sue is an investor, founder, and advisor of 2 companies. He is the chairman of the digital marketing agency Single Grain, which has worked with Amazon, Uber, and Salesforce. He also hosts 2 podcasts, Marketing School with Neil Patel and Leveling Up, an entrepreneurial podcast, which he dissects growth levers that help business scale. Combined, the podcasts have over 35 million downloads. He ultimately found how to convert his focus and success in gaming into a very successful marketing career. Please welcome the author of Leveling Up, Eric Sue.
Eric, what's up, my man? How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me, man.
You bet. Okay, let's see here. I want to take it back because you've been. I've learned of you back maybe about 5 years ago when you started the Marketing School podcast, and my favorite part of marketing is SEO, and you were doing SEO, and you actually have an agency that started SEO. I want you to kind of take it back before then. How did Eric Sue get into SEO?
Yeah, I mean, through luck, I graduated college, and this was coming out of the Great Recession, and the only job I could find was a dead-end data entry job, and I knew that wasn't the way. And one of my friends who now works at Airbnb, she was like, we're both working dead-end jobs. She was like, oh, you should check out this digital marketing thing. And little did I know, I ended up taking an internship where they hired 15 interns to make separate blogs on different C blocks to write different content. So they just were trying to create like a network, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I get what's going on. So anyway, that's how I got started initially. And then I just kind of, went deeper with SEO, and then eventually, try to spread my wings to become more of a T-shaped marketer, but more in depth on SEO than anything.
Nice. When you say T-shape, what do you mean by T-shape?
Yeah, so a T-shaped marketer. This is a Rand Fishkin thing, and I heard him a little earlier on your show. And by the way, your show is freaking amazing. All the stuff, all the hard work you put in, and thanks for the reel too. So, it means going deep, because marketing is a lot of different disciplines, right? You can specialize in ads, you can specialize in SEO, you can specialize in brand, whatever. You go deep in one area, but you have a good understanding of everything else. So, early in my career, I learned how to run paid ads, do email marketing, affiliate marketing. Eventually, I had to learn how to manage people and all that. So, it's just constantly about leveling up your skills and not just being a one-trick pony, because, in today's day and age, kind of going beyond just SEO, it's if you're just stuck in one area, you might be in trouble, right? So even though you love SEO, Paul, you're doing this show, which is amazing, right? You're diversifying and you're building an audience. So it's you're doing the right stuff for sure.
Dropping those bombs. Okay, I heard you talk about different C blocks. I know a lot of SEOs out there know kind of what that does, and you're creating your own networks and stuff like that. I mean, is this something that so when you got into SEO, was it more on like the edgier side of SEO, or what would you say you're doing SEO back then?
Yeah, I think when I worked at companies in-house as an SEO, I always did things, by the book, because you don't want to tank a website. But, in my own time, I would try things on both sides, right? So I remember I made a website called lightshowvideos.com because I was into EDM music festivals. I thought I was going to, make it big. I would go to wickedfire.com, which is a black hat forum, and then I would, get links there, and they were like really dirty links too. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm number one. I'm a genius, right? And then so I made like another site called howtogetridofpimples.net, ranked really highly. And then I lost the traffic in like 3 days. So I learned my lessons there. I think it's important to understand both sides, but obviously don't take it on like the main things you have going on. But what I've learned over the years, kind of what I've established up to now, this is like 10 plus years ago, is that, look, learn from the black hats, but do it in a white hat way, right? And what I mean by that, and you feel free to stop me for clarification, is I remember back in the day, I love the bombs, by the way. Back in the day, on the Wicked Fire forums, they used to talk about link wheels, right? It's like, oh, let's have all these Web 2.0 properties, like all these like random blog websites linked together, and then they'll link to the main page, right? And that's a link wheel. And then I'm like, okay, well, how about I don't do it in a dirty way, and how about I do it in a way where I actually have relationships, and we do that link wheel in a white hat way, and that will make it much stronger, right? So in this scenario, you're doing kind of a 1 + 1 = 5 scenario where you're getting the best of both worlds.
Love it. Okay, let's see here. I want to go into you were learning these through forums. Was there any particular person that you were learning from, or were you just kind of doing a lot of testing on your own? How else did you learn more about SEO?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of testing with, so I mentioned lightshowvideos.com. I had how to get rid of pimples, and I made a website for a gaming, at the time there's a game called Portal 2, and I made portal2walkthrough.net, probably tanked that one as well. I was getting like 50,000 visits a day, right, on it, and then like in a week I lost the traffic because, Google figured it out. So I would just test it. Sometimes I'd repeat the same mistakes and then try to see if I can push it. So a lot of testing on the kind of the darker side of SEO. But in on the other side, when I worked full time at places, I started at an agency, and then I went to work at a company called Break Media, which is break.com, and they have a whole host of other websites. And then eventually I went to go lead marketing at an online education startup called Treehouse. And so, yeah, that was like, there's like a white way and there was like a black hat way, right? And so I learned kind of in parallel. And then along the way, I definitely spoke to a lot of SEOs and marketers. And I did get fortunate enough, and I know a lot of this person is very controversial, and you know who I'm talking about, but the person I did the podcast with called Marketing School, Neil Patel, he had a blog called QuickSprout before. And, you know, when he used to write back in the day, this is before a lot of people, it was really good stuff, right? Not saying it's not good anymore, but it's a different blog now. And, you know, he would just write certain things. Sometimes he'd make up words like link blending. I'm like, what are you even talking about? So I'd start reaching out to him, and he started responding to me. I was like, oh, he actually responds. So I just kept taking advantage of that. And usually this is not replicable, by the way, because usually you ghost someone if they annoy you, but he kept responding to me. And eventually he's like, dude, let's just get on the phone call. We got on the phone, and then that led to us meeting at Taco Bell, which is his favorite restaurant at the time. You know, ever since then we've stayed close, and now, you know, we're partners on a couple of different things. And I know he's a very controversial figure, but you know, we balance each other out.
Nice. Hey, I mean, that tactic may still work. You don't know. You know, just try to reach out and ask a lot of questions. Okay, I want to go into where now you got into SEO, and then now you started, you followed the path where you had a job working for companies. Then you actually own an agency, and I saw one of the reels that I put together. One of the slides on there was you actually bought the agency for like $2 or something like that. Like, what's the story behind that?
Yeah, so Neil was actually a partner in the agency back then. So the story is this. So Single Grain, the ad agency I own now, originally it was an SEO shop. And this was back in 2012, 2013. So those of you that are familiar understand that those were the years where Penguin and Panda came out. And the work that Single Grain was doing no longer became relevant. The results weren't happening anymore. And so from the outside looking in, you know, I came from working in software, came from working in tech, you know, I thought my poo-poo didn't stink, you know, and I'm like, why would I go back to an agency? It's not scalable. The business is going down. Why would I ever do that? Now, you know, I had just come from a scenario where we had a great product, a great team, and a great mission, and all we needed to do was add marketing. And then, you know, we went on to do great things with that company. So the next challenge was, whoa, let me reframe it in my mind. Can I come into a company and turn it around when the product or service is no longer working? Everything's against me. And so the logic here is, if I could turn this around, I can do anything. And so I came into the company. 6 months into it, the 4 other partners wanted out. So it was Neil and 3 other people. So I was able to buy Neil's shares for $1 for 10%, another dollar for another partner's 10%. And Neil basically was telling me at the time, he's like, look, the company's worth nothing. There's no brand equity. There's nothing. You should get out. And he was looking out for me as a friend. And you know, I was like, look, let me just try it, right? And, you know, the rest I financed through the profits of the company with a contingency that I put in that if the company failed, I would owe nothing, right? So that was a quote unquote M&A deal. And like, I don't even know what's going on. I was 26 or 27 years old at the time. So that's how I got the company, promptly tanked it to 1 employee a year after. So I actually made it even worse. Almost had to shut the company down. Outside accounting firm called me, said, hey, it might be time to shut it down. So it got pretty dire.
And then, so where would you say it's at now? I mean, it's still active right now, right?
Oh, it's active. No, it's doing great. I mean, we've turned it around. The entire thesis was that, look, if we can turn the business around, it's going to be an asymmetric bet because, you know, it's unlimited upside. And then my downside is I learned a lot from quote unquote running a company. And so the payoff's huge, right? Heads I win, tails I don't lose much. And, you know, the bet here was, again, use the cash flows from an agency, which is a great cash flow business, and then take it and reinvest the profits into more exponential sources of revenue or more durable sources of revenue. So for example, we have a software company now. We have an education component. Neil and I have an events business. That's not exactly scalable, but it's great cash flow. And then we're building a school around Marketing School too, right? And I also invest in other SaaS companies too. So instead of saying, hey, I need to go raise angel funding or, you know, raise funding from all these other places, I'll say, you know what? I'll get the funding from my customers. And that's exactly how we've done it. You know, the culture with Single Grain, it's great. You know, it's yeah, I mean, it's It's better than I ever could have imagined. We'll put it that way. But it was, we basically had to switch it from becoming an SEO agency, tried to switch it to content marketing, and then that didn't work. And then we tried switching it to paid media, and then that worked, and it just kept ramping from there.
Nice.
Excellent.
Okay, let's see here. You talked about a software company, and this brings me to another part where like I kind of got like reintroduced to you again. It's like were you referring to ClickFlow? Is it something?
Correct.
And so this is something owned by Single Grain, or is it kind of works together?
No, it's a separate entity.
Got it. Okay, for those that don't know about ClickFlow, I mean, you guys, it's an awesome tool. This is something where it takes a lot of guesswork out of the way. And can you really kind of explain a little bit, like when was first explain a little bit what it does, and then your aha moment. What made you develop this tool? Because it's really helpful.
Thanks. I appreciate that, Paul. So ClickFlow it's SEO software. It helps you grow your traffic while looking like a genius. And what that basically means, I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, but you can run, different title tests, meta description tests to increase your click-through rates, get more traffic. You can check when your content is decaying. And then you can also figure out for your writers when they're creating content, what keywords that they should be putting in, so they don't necessarily need to learn SEO. And there's a whole host of other things that we have, coming down the pipeline, but that's basically what it is.
And then so you get all this data, and you're able to increase your CTR and stuff like that. So okay, once you figure out and you identify certain blog posts or content that needs some updating or some CTR, what are some CTR has been big in the SEO industry right now, whether it's either manipulating CTR or even just doing organically while pushing traffic, stuff like that. What are some clean tips, organic search tips that you can provide the audience here to do some nice, clean, organic CTR?
Yeah, I mean, here, I'll give some basic ones first. In some cases, when you add an emoji, you can get like a 10 to 15% lift, right, in CTR. And so that's pretty basic. I mean, on Apple, you just press Shift Command M, and then you pull out a list of emojis. Obviously, when the year changes, you want the year to change. That's a big effect, right, on your click-through rate because it's relevant. That's basic. The one thing I'll say, you don't necessarily have to use ClickFlow for this, but this is a tried but true tactic. You just go to Google Search Console and then sort by pages that have a high impression count but a low click-through rate, and then you optimize those. And then you can even just do it's not exactly scientific, right? But what you could do is test it for 15 days or so and then look at the before and after. That's known as pre-post testing. So those are just a couple of things that you can do. And obviously what I think is good for the long term from even a copywriting perspective is looking at headlines that catch your attention, whether it's through Instagram, Facebook. Save those, right? Save those into a folder somewhere, and then just create your own headline formulas from those headline formulas, right? And you can even Google headline formula generators. But you don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel here, because a lot of great headlines have already been created, and especially if you're not a specialist in copywriting, just go borrow influence from other people.
Got it. Dropping those bombs there. Okay, so I mean, the year one is I've actually just did a test within that site ClickFlow, and it was like a 3-week test, and I just added 2021 to the blog post and saw a 400% increase in clicks.
Wow.
It's a trip. And so it's cool, guys. I mean, I love the tip on organizing your Google Search Console by impressions and see which ones have the least clicks. Those are good ones to optimize for us. Nice. Thank you for that. Okay, I want to. So what was your aha moment? What made you develop the tool? Come out of the, because I actually at first I heard of the tool on marketing school, and then it took a while before I actually got into it, because I was I think Zach reached out to me and was like, oh, I do remember ClickFlow. It was from I heard it on marketing school, and so I'm curious. What made you decide to go with ClickFlow or create the product?
Yeah, I mean, so it's the thesis originally when I took over Single Grain was to go find exponential sources of revenue, and working in SaaS in the past, I understand it's a weird dichotomy, because in coming from the internet marketing world, internet marketers or affiliate marketers are very good at acquisition. They're historically poor at retention or understanding the customer, right? They just want to, they're really good at cranking customers out, but they don't get them to stick. Now, when you come into the world of tech, specifically when you think about product people, they're very good at product, but they're not necessarily good at marketing, right? So it's reversed. And so even demand gen marketers, they're just good at, they're okay at acquisition, but they do understand that it's important to understand the customer more, right? Doing customer development and all that. And so, being able to straddle both worlds, I was like, okay, we got to go with SaaS. Like it makes sense because my growing audience happens to be around SEO and content marketing. So what I got lucky, because one day I was at a conference in New Orleans, and I just opened Facebook, and then I saw in one of the groups, one guy was saying that he was looking for his next project, and he had worked on these other SaaS projects, and a bunch of people responded. I'm like, dude, I'll be lucky if I can even get this guy's attention. But somehow I got his attention, and then we got on the phone, and we from there, it's like he had a bunch of ideas, I had a bunch of ideas, and then we just basically sent those ideas to my email list. And the one that won out was the idea of ClickFlow. First it started out as just testing, but then eventually evolved to what it is now. So again, the thesis again was, let's go for exponential, but let's not try to just guess at this. We kind of did guess at it. If I were to do it again, I probably would just ask, hey, what problems are you facing right now? Instead of trying to force them down one of my ideas. So that's one of the mistakes I made.
Got it. Okay, nice. I mean, so if there's someone, I mean, I know I see a few viewers on here that actually also have some SaaS products of their own. What would be like one tip to help them, or you say like anyone else even that has a product for SEO or any other industry to get it going? I mean, is it offering it for free, or how is it? What's that one way to get it kicked off and going mainstream with it?
Yeah, so I think you're asking about launch, but I'm also going to say that even pre-launch or even during launch too. One thing that really sticks with me is that there's a founder of a company called Levels, and it's a health thing. It's like a continuous glucose monitor you stick on you, and I have a couple of them. And I remember when I first applied for it, the CEO himself reached out to me and said, hey, can you get on a 45-minute call? We actually did the 45-minute call. He asked very targeted questions. What do I eat? How do I sleep? How often do I use my Peloton and all that? And he was basically doing customer development. And I was like, this is really impressive that you got on the call. How many of these have you done? He's like, over 1,000. I'm like, dude, like that's what it takes to build an amazing product, because you might have an initial thesis first, but to be able to continue to talk to customers, like that's what it really is about, right? Because it's ultimately about serving the customers. So there's that portion. Now for ClickFlow, what I like, and Neil's also a proponent of this as well, is how can you give away a chunk of it for free, or give it away for free, have a product-led growth version, right? So, Uber Suggest, which is Neil's tool, he has a free version of that, right? And you can use, all the functions to an extent. And, it's a quote-unquote crippled product, right? But you get a taste of it. Now, with ClickFlow, we splintered off a piece of our product. So our content decay product, we actually made that part free, right? So you can see when your traffic is going down. So it's a lot easier when you lead with a product where it's free and you can kind of just jump right into it. So even if you can't give your product completely away for free, you can at least splinter a piece off. And then when your sales team is reaching out to people, instead of saying, hey, you want to do a demo or whatever, you can lead with that. And I'm not saying this is necessarily the right fit for everyone. In some cases, if your product is super enterprise, then go for the demo, right? But I think in a lot of cases, PLG is becoming a lot more popular.
Got it. Okay, let's see here. Now we're going on to your you've been mentioning leveling up a lot. I mean, one of my other videos, it's like your term. It's like you use it's part of your daily vocabulary, leveling up. I wanted to play something really quick before we start even talking about your book. And so it's a quote that you mentioned here. Let me go ahead and put this on here.
It's the same thing with business. Like, you get a job, maybe you start freelancing, get some clients on the side, and then from there you start to build out your agency if you want. You can start to build out products if you want as well. You can keep leveling up to the point where you go build like a networks effects business or like a SpaceX. But you can take it as far as you want. You just got to keep leveling up. You don't deserve to get to the next level until you beat this one.
So when we beat the next level, how do we, what is the concept of beating the next level? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a couple of anecdotes for me. It's I remember when I was leading marketing at that startup, I was thrust into that position because the guy before me quit. And so, I had never been a manager before. And so the level to beat at the time was to learn how to become an actual manager. And there's a lot of scar tissue that I had to build, a lot of muscle that I had to build, a lot of failures that I had to go through, right? So for example, when I fired a person for the first time in my life, I actually got on a Skype call and we talked for 15 minutes. we basically talk normally for 15 minutes as if we're friends, and then 15 minutes into it, I let him go, right? So making stupid mistakes like that, right? And then you get to beat the boss at that level. It's like, oh, this is when you're actually a manager, right? You get to move to the next level. Now it's like, oh, okay, you get to run a company, and can you actually turn a company around, change the service, right? So basically fly a plane while changing the engine. Can you do that? That's what single grain. Beat that level, right? You get to move to the next one. I almost failed that level, right? Remember, outside accounting firm called me. I actually had said yes to receiving to a job offer that was very lucrative, but something was just wrong. I'm like, no, I got to keep going, right? Same thing with the Leveling Up podcast. After the first year, only 9 downloads a day. After the second year, only 30 downloads a day. But without continuing on that path, I wouldn't have reached, we're at 48 million downloads right now cumulatively, right? So this is not all to brag. I'm just saying a lot of this stuff takes time. It takes a lot of time to beat certain levels. So
yeah, you actually mentioned something. You said a lucrative offer that you had, and I can't remember where I heard this story, but that lucrative offer was $1 million offer, right? Before you wanted, and you turned it down. Like, it takes I don't know if it'll take a lot of cuts or whatever, but I mean, again, so like in your mindset, was it's because you already saw something even more, like, you could see you could skip another level if you went this route or something like that? I mean, curious, like what was going on in your mind? It's like, you know what, I don't need this $1 million. Let's go here.
I think it's kind of counterintuitive because we're taught to optimize for money, but at the end of the day, if you end up chasing the opportunity instead of chasing the money, you end up going a lot further. So when I was like 25 or 24 years old, I was on Upwork consulting doing SEO. And one of the guys I was doing work for, he's like, hey, why don't you move to Philly? I'll pay you 250 grand. I'll give you 5% profit sharing. That company's doing really well nowadays. The guy like pinged me earlier this year, and he was like, I'm still mad that you didn't come, right? So there's that. And then this one is like, sure, there's the $1 million in cash, but I didn't feel right. It's still, at the end of the day, to build the most leverage, where can I get the most leverage? Is it from running my own thing where I have a lot of options and I can do what I want and what I think is right? Or should I fall in line there, right? And I'm not saying, it's wrong to work somewhere. It's just not for me. And so, to me, it was a lot more worth it to continue on the painful path that I was currently on.
Got it. Okay, now we're here at your book, Leveling Up. I'm curious, like, when did you start writing it? Like, how long it take on the process of there? I mean, it's not even out yet. It's coming out in about a month, which got pre-ordered. And I'm gonna hey guys, don't forget, put I love SEO in the chat to be automatically entered for 3 free drawings next week. Be sure to put I love SEO. Okay, so with your book, how long did it take? And what was the what pushed you to actually even put this book out there? And tell me about it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Paul. I actually have the hardcover right
here. Oh yeah,
so
I had to show a picture of my Amazon receipt to there. Like, but yeah, cool.
You're good. So it's I had the idea when I was about 28 years old. I don't think I started writing it till 29, and the reason why I decided to do it. So to answer your question, now having this physical copy next to me took 6 years basically from idea to actually popping in front of me. And at the time, I had heard from other authors that actually writing a book can take 4 to 5 years, and that I'm probably going to have to go through 5 to 7 rounds of revisions. And that's exactly what happened. I went through 7 rounds of revisions, and I decided to do the book, to answer your question, because there's over 3 billion people in the world that have played games, and there's still a stigma tied to gaming. And my thesis is that gaming creates leaders, and it's no different than sports. Everything you learn from sports, most of it, you can translate into real life. And so to me, gaming is a chance for you to go trained in the shadow world, right? Which is what you are. You're going there, learn as much as you can, but bring all those skills back to real life where you can make a bigger impact on the world. I think, for me in the past, because I love the escapism of gaming, that I stood in the shadow world. I didn't come out of it. I didn't want to come back to the real life because I wasn't acknowledged for, all the good things I was doing in gaming. But now I understand that it was a training ground for me. And I think, whether you're a parent listening right now and your child plays a lot of games, I think getting both sides to understand that this can be beneficial, just not overdoing it, is huge, right? Because now the way I look at it, I've always wanted to recapture the same feeling I had playing games when I was 10 or 11 years old. Largely, I have that feeling now because when I wake up thinking about business, oh my God, I can play so many games within that, right? I can do podcasts with people such as yourself. I can write things. I can recruit talent. I can work on financing. I can go try to do a deal on another business, whatever. I can throw an event. There's so many things within that. and you also get to help people too. And it's just really fun.
Love it. Okay, we got one question that just actually came in here. What is Eric's favorite game? And do you think favorite genres are related to what kind of entrepreneur you can be?
That's a great question. Never heard something like that before. So, I mean, my favorite game would probably be the precursor to the World of Warcraft. It's EverQuest. With no EverQuest, there is no World of Warcraft. I played that when I was 10 or 11 years old. And I think, here, you want the answer to the entrepreneur question. That was a question, right? Which game's best for entrepreneurship?
Yeah. What genre related?
Poker. So poker, it's like, oh, what, that's gambling. No, because what you learn from poker is that you can bring your A game 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And if variance is against you, where the math is against you, you can still lose. And that's very much real life. That's very much business. You learn bankroll management. You learn how to think in bets, which is, how to invest. There's just so many nuances within there that, and there's just dynamics to different games. There's levels, right? The tables, playing people, like looking for the sucker and all that, right? And some of the best venture capitalists in the world, you have Chamath Palihapitiya, who's always on CNBC. They played their poker games a lot. And I actually engaged with him a couple of years ago on Twitter. And we basically had an agreement there that, poker builds resilience and it's super helpful for business. Without poker, I wouldn't be so numb as I am to, a lot of, bad stuff that happens. It's, to me, it's just all the numb stuff, the bad stuff is just part of the journey.
Nice. We had another question here by Bradley. How do you handle CTR for terms that have multiple vectors like images and versus web? Do you find that bad CTR for the image will pull down the overall CTR for the web search term?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. That's something I haven't experienced myself, but my conjecture would be, yeah, I mean, if it's a very irrelevant image, like I'm struggling to come up with an example right now, but yeah, if it's totally unrelated, I think, people would be dissuaded from clicking. I think it's just human nature.
Got it. I mean, do you think your principles of the web, text CTR, same thing with images, or how can you apply those with, image search or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, so, we, at least for ClickFlow in that context, with image search, we don't really do anything around that. But I think, with image search, I'm trying to think through, like, so obviously you can have a title for the image, you can have the alt text and all that. But yeah, I mean, I think spending a little effort on that would be helpful. But it's not something I focus a lot on.
Got it. Okay, if there's any more questions, ask it before I ask my last question. But before I ask my last question, I want to talk about the book, You're Leveling Up. When you get your book, you actually combine it with an SEO course. There's a course that I actually was able to log into when I got the book, and it's well shot, and it's for guys, anyone that's getting into SEO, great course here. But there's one part of it where it's like the level 99 strategy. Can you explain the level 99 strategy in that course?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I shot that course a while back. So, but to me, level 99, at least for right now in this context, and I'll probably have to come back to you in terms of what I was referring to there, because I forgot. But I think it's ultimately level 99 is the highest level you can get to, right? So it's trying to figure out how do you constantly continue every single day. How do you level up 1%, right? How do you get a little better every single day, so you can overall as a person to reach your potential, reach your level 99. And that way you can make the biggest impact, right? So, whether it's in SEO, doing the right things every single day consistently, or your mind every single day, right? There's a cliche around meditation. There's, you need to sleep well. There's health and all that, right? Diet and all that. All that stuff adds up. All that stuff compounds. And SEO, this is why I love SEO so much. SEO forces you to think like an investor, because SEO in itself, it's very long-term focused. And when you try to play short-term games, earlier we talked about my experiments with Black Hat early in my career, you get burnt, right? But when you play long-term games with long-term people, like how Paul's doing right now, he's interviewing people, he's creating content. These are long-term plays. It's not going to say, hey, I'm going to see, rocket ship growth the next day. And so I've really been, good at long-term growth in my career, at least. I'm not really good at the short-term stuff. And I've realized that, pretty early. So.
Damn! Dropping knowledge all day. Here we go. Okay, we had one more comment here. As a fellow gamer, I just pre-ordered the book. Looking forward to reading it. Okay, I didn't see other questions here, but I want to ask you this last question that I ask all my SEO professionals that come on here. Is if someone is trying to become an SEO professional, what is that one tip that you can give them to become that SEO professional or to get into the industry? What is your answer to that?
Yeah, I mean, first I was gonna say, the patience thing, right? Staying slow, thinking in decades. But I think something that's been super helpful for me, not just in SEO, but in my business career overall, is understanding how to be the connector. Because when you are the connector, you are the center of attention. And I'm an introvert. I don't particularly like the attention, but the attention it's important to grow faster, right? And so what I did early in my career when I didn't know how to speak, I got reps in at smaller events, 25, 50 people. I would speak for free, get the reps in, get the suckage out of my body. That's one piece of it. But when I would go to bigger conferences, what I would do is I would gather some of the speakers together and say, hey, this speaker's going to be here, this speaker's going to be here, they're all going to be hanging out, and I'm the nobody, but I'm connecting people at dinner, right? And so I become at their level during dinner, and then they'll connect me with other people. Just the way to do it is you do that type of stuff. You cover the bill, and you just continue to connect people, and you do it for free without any expectations, right? But what ends up happening is because you keep facilitating all these connections, people will remember you for doing that, right? So at the end of the day, you're playing a relationships game, and this comes all the way back to SEO. When you have relationships with different, whether it's different publishers or other amazing SEOs, that's going to take you a lot further than saying, oh, I can get you this domain authority 80 link, right? That's very transactional. You got to think long term, which is relationships. Transactional is short term.
Got it. Love it. Love it. All right. This concludes my show. But can you hold on real quick before I sign off with everyone? And all right, thank you, Eric, for coming by. For everyone, don't forget to put I love SEO in the chat. Let me see here. All right. Don't forget to put I love SEO in the chat or in the comments if you're watching this. Be sure to don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you next week.
Thank you for watching. Hope you come back next week. Make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss a thing. Hope you learn something new, cause the vibe is incredible. From the special SEO professionals, SEO video show, let's work. Want to see you be an SEO expert. Paul Andre De Vera helping you step it up. No delay right now. Time to level up. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Woo!